Okay, I'm gonna give you a really fast-forwarded snapshot version of one of the activities that we do in creative writing. This one is the response to image activity, but I'm gonna explain a little bit about the background of that and then show you exactly what that means. So, basically, in creative writing, we have these 5 pillars. That's these 5 like essential pieces of things that go into a creative writing workshop. And I decided that those things are sparked ideas, growth as a reader and a writer, sharing and receiving and giving feedback, learning more about the concepts of writing that you may not already know, and conferencing with a mentor to create better writing. So this lesson is focusing specifically on this sparked ideas piece. Basically, the question that we have is, what is creativity and how can you become a more creative person? Some people are like, I'm not creative, I can't come up with anything. But that's not true, because creativity is really just that muscle, the ability to come up with ideas, and usually that comes from drawing from something else. Let me show you what I mean. So our biggest thing is to create your own authentic ideas. So create your own writing without necessarily a prompt. I never want my, or I usually don't want my writers to just kind of spit back writing at me. So I don't want to say, write about a time when you had fun, or write about a time when you learned a lesson. That is quite the opposite of what I'm looking for. I want you to come up with your idea and kind of run with it from there. So one of the strategies that we do to do that is called the response to activity. And in this case, it's going to be a response to an image. With this activity, basically you just really look at some type of stimulus. In this case, it's an image, and respond with your thoughts, but it's a little bit deeper than that, so I'm going to show you what I mean. So our first thing to do is to notice the picture. We're going to just literally just stare at it for quite a bit before we do anything else. So just look at this picture and think about what you notice. It should take you a while when you're kind of going through this process correctly. It shouldn't be like, oh yeah, I see a mermaid, I get it, Little Mermaid, that's it. No, you want to really look and see, okay, I noticed this bright piece of light right here. I noticed the fish, I noticed the little boy, I noticed the look on the woman's face, I noticed that this side is darker, I noticed that she has a tail, I noticed that his shirt is striped, right? You want to go through and actually, I say it again, but I mean it, notice the things that are in the picture. Once you feel like you have looked at it for long enough, you're going to go from there into listing out what you notice. So when I look at this picture, I see red hair, trapped. Something important that I just skipped over, not necessarily the things that you notice and see, but also the things that you think about when you're looking at this picture. So anyway, I noticed the red hair, I noticed that she is trapped, I noticed that her hands are pressed up against the glass. I noticed the little boy is looking on. Looking closer to understand the look in her face. And so you'll kind of do that as long as it takes you to notice as much as you can from the picture. I could have gone on for another several minutes, but for the sake of the video, I want to kind of move it along so you see what you're doing. Okay, I've ended up with this list of the things that I see in the picture and the things that I thought about. So now that I have my list, I move on to step 3, which is where I'm looking at my list, choose an item and continue writing. Or if something on your list makes you think about something else, write about that something else. So I'm going to show you what that means. In my list, I have red hair, trapped, hands pressed up against the glass, boy looking on, bright light, fish all around, Little Mermaid, sad, look on her face, questioning. This is my first reaction to this. Now my job is to choose one of these things and use that not as my prompt but as my sparked idea. So I'm actually going to look at this list and think, okay, what about this list makes me think of something else that I could say more about? You don't want to pick something like Little Mermaid. I don't have that much more to say about Little Mermaid that's coming from my own ideas. But when I do see the word red hair, that makes me think of growing up. I had red hair and I kind of lost it. I tried to dye my hair red again, and then I didn't want red hair, and it's kind of this whole long story. But that's something that I could explain in my writing. So I'm going to choose red hair as my sparked idea. Your last step is to actually write about what that makes you think of. You could use the writing stem, this makes me think about. This is not a prompt. This is to get your writing going. In this case, I'm going to take a couple minutes to actually write. There won't be any audio on this part of the video, so if you want to fast forward to the ending, that's all right. Okay, so this is the writing that I ended up with. It says, "It wasn't until recently that I started seeing my red hair as a defining characteristic of myself. For years, I tried to tame, push back, flatten, straighten, and dye my hair into the sleek and shiny version of me that I wanted. As a teenager, I laid in the sun, begging it to warm my skin into a tanned, glowing brown instead of a blistered, angry burn, but I always just ended up with more freckles. But today I feel different. My hair isn't ringlet curls like I used to want. It's more of a wavy, bedheaded look, but I like it. Maybe society has lightened up a little, or maybe I did on myself, but I'm proud of my freckle-faced, red-haired, frizzy me." So you should see that I made revisions as I was going. That's a natural part of pre-writing, and you should also notice that this is not my final draft by any means. This is just pre-writing. I think that something that we skip over a lot now is that not every pre-writing that you write has to turn into a draft or even a final draft, or even just a draft itself. This is probably where I'll stop with this one because I don't love this story and I don't really see this going into a full piece, but the practice of actually writing out my ideas into a piece of pre-writing is a really important skill to strengthen that we do a lot in creative writing. So for your activity for this time block that you're looking to fill, I'd like you to look through some of the pictures that I've attached to this email and go through these steps. So again, that's going to be to first just stare at it, notice it, then make your list, then choose one of the things on your list and pre-write. If you need a stem to start you with that pre-writing, you can use This Makes Me Think About. No. Thank you.